What is up, everybody? It's your girl Jada Reeds here, aka Diamond, back with another video. And today we're going to be doing some summer book recommendations. I'm excited. Are you? But first, if this is your first time seeing my face or knowing of my existence, my name is Diamond, and over here on this channel I like to do reading vlogs, book reviews, and everything in between. So if that is something that you're interested in, I think you should consider subscribing. Okay, so without further ado, I just want to get straight into the video. Okay, let's just get straight into it. I'm ready to recommend some books to you guys. All right, so first we have, technically you cannot read this book if you have not entered into the quartet that is the Neapolitan novels, but I'm going to add this book anyways because this was the quintessential summer read. So this is the second installment of the Neapolitan Quartet, My Brilliant Friend, and this one is The Story of a New Name, which continues the story or the journey of Lila and Elena's, or the best friends that are Lila and Elena, and they are in Naples, Italy. Well, yeah, basically it's where the story takes place. And so the reason why I put this book on the list is because, first of all, I read it during the summer a couple of years back, and it was just perfect for the summer vibes. Like at that particular time, I was teaching school. So of course, you know, when summertime comes, I'm on break for 2 months and I don't have anything to do but just like continuously clean up my place, read books, take my daughter to the YMCA, to the pool, take her to camp, all this stuff. I'm just able to read. And so this book was more of it was like a fever dream of sorts, in a way of the prose, the natural. This book takes basically a natural approach to sucking you in. I feel like Elena Ferrante is a brilliant writer. She is one of my favorite writers currently at the moment. I don't think that'll change. And so the narrative about the two best friends is just so engulfing and engaging. And so of course it's more on the soap opera side of things, but I won't just say that that's the vibe that this book gives me. But for reference, or because we're talking about summertime, you want books that will suck you in like that. You want books that are a little bit more full of drama, that have a lot of different things going on, a lot of different characters that can just like take you to a new world, into a new place. And that's the thing that Elena Ferrante's books do to you, even the ones that are not a part of the series. So for context, this follows the two best friends still in their adolescent or mid-adolescent teenage years into their college years and a little bit early adult, like I'll say like 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. So it's around that time frame for the two girls. And so what you have is more stories about them, like, I don't know, finding love a little bit, exploring their body, exploring what it is to deal with men that possibly don't love you as much as you think. Like, we're out of that kind of like dream world that the two girls were in when they were like 12 and 13 years old, and they're more so falling into what it's really like to grow up and how people really are. And it follows the nuances of family. And honestly, like, I don't want to give if I say too much, it'll give the story away. And although this is a well-read series, there's still so many people who've never read it before. But in general, I would put this in my quintessential ultimate summer reads. I would say the entire series is a summer read for me. You could do 2 of them. You could do 1 in May, 1 in June, 1 in July, 1 in August, and that like kind of wraps up the summer, honestly. And so this is just a really good book to like sink your teeth into, or a really good series to sink your teeth into. And you just have those moments also where the reason why it's also good for summer, I just thought about it, literally just came to me, is they go on vacation in this book. They go to Ischia. I think I'm saying it right. It's either Ischia or Itzia. They go somewhere in Italy, Ischia, and they're at this like summer beach house for a time, and they're on the beach, and Elena is like dealing with this one particular guy, and you have all of these moments in between where she might think that she's falling in love or think that she's falling in like, and then turns around and there's another person that she's been dreaming about there. And it's just really good for the summertime. You want good summer vibes, I say pick up any one of Elena Ferrante's books, but this one in particular really gives that summer vibe that you're looking for. If you want to go to the beach, read something, this is a great beach read. If you want to just lay up on the side of the pool in your backyard, or go to the YMCA, lay up on the pool, this is a great book for that. So I highly recommend this book for a good summer read. I literally have notes that I wrote about each of these books, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't want it to seem disingenuous. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to just kind of go off the dome a little bit, but I do have a piece that I tabbed that I wanted to read, just so you can get a taste of it. I said nothing about myself, nor did she about herself. But the reasons for the readiness were very difficult. I had no intention of putting into words what had happened to me. It was a bare fact. It had to do with my body, its psychological reactivity. That for the first time in a tiny part of another body had entered, it seemed to me irrelevant. The nighttime mass of the Satori communicated to me nothing except a sensation of alienness. And it was a relief that it had vanished like a storm that never arrives. That's just, to me, one of the many powerful lines that you will find in Miss Elena Ferrante's writing. And so that's another thing. You're just going to get like engulfed into the beautiful prose that is her telling the stories. And it's just, it makes for a wonderful poolside read, honestly. All right, so next we have the incomparable, the amazing Miss Sally Rooney. And we have here Beautiful World, Where Are You?, her latest novel. But she does have another one, Intermezzo, or Intermezzo, however you say it. It's coming out this September. I'm hoping to get an advanced reader copy, fingers crossed. But anyways, this was the last one that she published in 2021 in September, and it's a phenomenal book to me. I am a Sally Rooney lover. I love all of her books. I've read all of them, and this one also was really good. So this book follows 4 people. I think there's Felix, there's Alex, there's Eileen, and then there's Simon. Is her name Alice? Yeah. And so you have what you always have in Sally Rooney's books. They're of course about the complicated or complexities of relationship, whether it be friendship or something a little bit more relational, meaning man, woman, 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 man, man, sex. A lot of sex talking about sex here, and just those cringy moments that you also find yourself in when trying to get to know somebody, or when trying to reconnect with an old friend, or, you know, when it's been a while. You have all of that stuff embedded in this novel. For one, I have to just say, I know there's like a love-hate relationship online with Sally Rooney. People tend to think that her novels are not as good as others. Like, people, or I've read some places, or I've seen in some videos where she just kind of gives like conversations, like her books are centered around conversations between people that you otherwise wouldn't have, or her books are not as realistic as they want them to be, or as people want them to be, or her characters are very annoying. But there's so much beauty in all of those things. I can take all of the comments or videos that I've watched regarding Sally Rooney, and I can make an argument as to, yes, you might be right, but isn't that how life is? How many times have you found yourself in a complex relationship with a man, in a situationship with a woman? How many times have you found yourself unable to really speak truth to someone who's been a best friend in your life for like 5 to 7 years? How many times have you held back from telling somebody how you really feel or care about them? Like, how many times has that happened in you or to you in your real life? Those are the things that I feel like Sally Rooney does a really good job of capturing in her writing and in her books, and that's what makes them so popular, I think, among millennials and Gen Zers alike. She just gets it. She really understands and she gets it. And honestly, she might be annoying to a lot of people because she's a Pisces. To me, I get super huge, big Pisces vibes from a lot of her characters in her novels. not for nothing, I'm a Pisces, so I know how we are, I know how we act, and there's like this dream-like aspect to those main characters where they kind of just float and live in this world that's like unlike anybody else's, and it's not really completely real, but that's kind of like how we're able to like maneuver through the day, or just get all that we can get out of life is just kind of dream a little bit more than others. We're not really grounded and rooted in reality like that. And that's the vibe that I get from her. And so with Beautiful World, Where Are You? I think that it was a very unique book. I really enjoyed the emails, the correspondences between Eileen and Alice, and just them communicating with each other via email, and also those moments when they found themselves together. I enjoyed the complex relationship between Alice and Felix. Also, I truly enjoyed the relationship between Eileen and Simon, who were childhood friends, and then they grew up, and then they grew apart, and then they came together again, and then they grew apart, and then who knows what happens at the end. I don't want to tell it just in case someone hadn't read this, but this was a great novel. It was good. It's also another one of those good beach reads. Sit on the porch, sit on your balcony, and just have like a nice fan blowing on you, and you just have some good jazz, maybe some Coltrane playing in the background, and you read something like this. This is also another book that gives you that fever dream sensation, and also, to me, unputdownable. So you want something where you don't have anything to do for the day, you've taken care of all your responsibilities, and you want a good read to sink your teeth into. I think that Beautiful World, Where Are You? Is great for that. So yeah, another great book. So we have another one that I feel is wonderful for the summer. This is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I'm a huge fan of Madeline Miller. I recently read Circe, which also easily could go on this list, but I just talked about Circe not too long ago, so we're going to add The Song of Achilles. So The Song of Achilles is a reimagining, a retelling of one of the stories in the Iliad regarding Achilles and Patroclus, his best friend. And it follows the two boys from childhood to adulthood to the Trojan War. And so what you get is this once again fever dream telling of a story of two boys who started off as friends and they grew to love one another. But it's so nuanced, the way that she decides to tell the story, the true story of Achilles and Patroclus. I have not read the Iliad. I've only read the Odyssey back in high school and Beowulf. I've never done the Iliad, but I know a lot about the Iliad. And so what you have here is, in the Iliad, I've read, when I finished this book, which was a couple of years ago, and I still revisit it from time to time, or revisit the Iliad stories. In the Iliad, there was a lot of hints that, or it was more profound and more in your face, that Achilles and Patroclus were in fact lovers and not best friends. So a lot of people only watched what's that story? Troy, which is the story of the Iliad, and how Helena of Troy left her husband and stayed alongside, I think, Agamemnon and his brother. Oh, my battery's about to die. Give me a second. Yeah, so I'm back. So what you have, basically what I'm trying to say is, a lot of people saw Troy. Troy was a really huge movie at the time. Brad Pitt played Achilles. I don't know who played Patroclus, because Brad Pitt was like the star of the show. And so there you have the instances where it's only believed that Patroclus and Achilles were best friends. Well, in the Iliad, they were assumed lovers there. And so what Madeline Miller does is she takes the story of the Iliad, of course, retells it, of course, as she does, and she does a great job. So to me, this book was treated, or their relationship was treated, so sensitively. It slowly follows how Patroclus came into the acquaintance of Achilles, and how they grew up together. They learned together, they fought together, they argue with one another, and you have those like tiny moments where it is implied how they are possibly feeling about each other, and then she takes it away because we go into a new scene. And then you have other moments where she completely embeds in there sentiments that one another really wants to have something more going on with each other, but then she takes us back away and puts us into a new scene. She does really just a phenomenal job. From beginning to end, this book also is one of those ones that you will sink your teeth into. This is great for a hot summer day. This is great for reading at the park, by the pool, on vacation, at the beach. This is one of those ones. Even just laid up in your bed on a hot summer day with a cool drink beside your bed and the air blasting on like 68, and you're like snuggled up under the covers reading something like this with music playing in the background. This is a phenomenal book, excellently written, brilliantly told. This is one of the best historical fiction, LGBTQIA plus novels, retelling I've ever read. Aside from Cersei, this was the first, this was the precursor. It was excellent, and I highly recommend it. A great summer read. All right, so of course we had to add, since we are in the month, I had to add 7 Days in June. Oh, I didn't do a quote. I have a quote. All right, here we go. In the darkness, two shadows, reaching through the hopeless, heavy dusk, their hands meet and the light spills in a flood like 100 golden urns pouring out of the sun. So beautiful. So back to this one. Of course, we have 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, by the best, the wonderful, the great Tia Williams. This book, when I first read it, upon first reading it, I gave it 5 stars. Upon reading it for a second time, I gave it 3.5 stars. And you can go watch the video and get to understanding why I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm just in that little romance, I don't know, just whatever the case may be. That blatant in your face romance, I'm just not into it right now, but that's not to take away from this book and how people respond to this book and how good this book is to so many people. And it is a great summer read at the end of the day. I can objectively say that. So this book follows Genevieve, or Eva Mercy, and Shane, forgot Shane's last name. They are 2 authors who knew each other in the past, and an opportunity presents itself where they see each other again in the present. And basically this is like a second chance romance story where you kind of sort of learn about the trauma that ensued between the both of them and individually when they were teenagers, when they split up, and what still lingers in the present. And it just follows them rekindling and things that have been unspoken, untold, and you just follow the story of these 2 writers in New York, living life and getting to know each other for the second time. It's just straightforward, honestly. It's a romance, straightforward. There's a lot of great banter here. This is a really, really, really good book for Black audiences, for Black women, for Black men. I said on my last video when I talked about this book, I read it back in February for the second time. I really enjoyed the communication and conversation between the friends, between Eva and her friends. That is something that I desire for myself. And so reading how 3 or 4 girlfriends interact with each other, and also the relationship between Eva and her daughter Audrey, I just really enjoy reading that. Those are my favorite parts of this book. Anyway, this is also one of those books that you're gonna zoom through. Really great for all things summer, and you'll just really enjoy it. And so that's all I really have to say about this one. I have a little quote that I underlined here for you guys. A wild current charged through her. Something primal, dirty, desperate, confusing. Was this being seen for what she really was? Being witnessed? It was heady and terrifying. Genevieve had hoped for someone to share secrets with, but she hadn't bet on something beating her crazy for crazy. And she hadn't bet on the person being a boy who looked like that, who looked at her like that. It's a good book. It's a good book. You'll enjoy this book if you haven't read it. It's a good book. All right, so next, I don't have a lot to truly say about Intimacies. First of all, this is Intimacies by Katie Kitamura. I think it was published back in 2022. I read it last summer, so that's how I know that it's a great book. 2021. I read it last summer, so that's how I know that it's a great book for the summertime. So this book follows an unnamed narrator who moved from New York to The Hague to be an interpreter at the courts there. And so it's called Intimacies, but it's more or less like this book, or it is intimacies. It's about the intimacies, or how intimate communication or language can be. It's about the complexities of becoming close with someone, whether it be a friend or whether it be an acquaintance or a lover. It's about lost communication. It's about finding a home when you don't have one, or you've never felt a home before, so it's kind of hard to sense what home is like, even in the presence of someone who seemingly has invited you into their home. It just follows so many different things. So this book has a lot going on, but not a lot going on. It's very quiet. It's a very, very quiet novel, and it's something unsettling about it, which makes it very good. So it follows this interpreter who is nameless, as I said before. She gets a job at the courts in The Hague, and she has to become an interpreter for a president from another country who has been indicted and who has been seized and been brought to The Hague. And he needs an interpreter, so she has to interpret for him, and the crimes that he has committed, she has to relive or live through him, all the things that he has done and being accused of. And also she has a lover named Adrian that's brought up in this novel, who is still married, going through a divorce, and he is going to leave her and go and serve his wife with divorce papers. And she also has this friend named Juana whose brother or who witnesses a violent crime. And so it follows all of these instances, and she becomes obsessed with finding out what happened to this person who her friend witnessed this act happen to. And it follows the story of her and Adrian, and it follows the story of her and the president who has committed these war crimes. And so all of it is mainly about language and how language can be lost. And because I don't know, like, it's just about the intricacies of communication and how communication can be lost based on whether you guys are speaking different languages, literally or figuratively. And so it's just one of those really, really good books. It's not very, very long. It's really good. It's really good for the summertime. It's really like one of those afternoon or midday reads, after brunch or something like that. And I just really enjoyed this, honestly. I literally, when I was like, I'm going to do a summer recommendation videos, this is the first book that popped into my mind, because I remember reading this last summer. I read this in the end of May, early June of last year, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope that helps, but I really believe that this is a great book for the summertime. If you have read this, or if you're thinking of reading it, please come back and let me know how you feel about it. And then we have a little bit of not a little bit, this is a lot bit of a fantasy. So we have romance on the list. We have contemporary literary fiction. What else? Girl, we have some of everything on the list. But this is a fantasy. This is Strange the Dreamer by Lonnie Taylor. By Lonnie or Lainey Taylor. So I'm actually reading this for a second time now via audiobook. I read it for the first time on vacation 2 years ago. I was in Miami at a mansion, laid up on a sunbed, dipping in and out of the pool. Hence why you see like redness on the pages and all of this. That's from the dye of my bathing suit, because I would get out of the pool and I read my book, fall asleep, wake up, get back in the pool, read my book. So this was a great summer read. So this book follows Laszlo Strange, who was a war orphan. So we're not even going to say just war orphan, but he was a war orphan. So this is it follows an orphan boy turned man named Laszlo Strange, who is right now currently an apprentice or a junior librarian. And I forgot the name of the city that he is in, but it's fantasy. Okay, so all of this stuff is completely made up. And so he is, I'll say, obsessed with figuring out the name of this quote unquote lost city. And no one knows the name of it because the city was wiped out of everybody's memory a long time ago for reasons that are unknown to everyone, especially to Laszlo. But he does know that he remembers this place. And so the only thing that pops up in the name of the lost city is this name called Weep. So they call it the lost city or the city of Weep. And so he does all this massive research over the years because he's trying to jog his memory and figure out what is this place that I can't really get out of my head, but I don't know the name of. And so he has tons and tons of books regarding all the research that he's done. And so like with all fantasy, you know, he just is a dreamer. He's someone who never like considered the thought or idea that he would have the opportunity to actually figure out where this place is. And so then there's something that happens. These people come and it starts the journey of him figuring out about the lost city of Weep, basically. So the God Slayer comes into town, and the last minute, like literally at the last minute, he gets the gumption to decide that he wants to tell them that he can come. Like, he wants to give them a reason for why he needs to come on this expedition to find the lost city of Weep. And so the story starts after that. It's just a good book. I want to tell y'all this is for all dreamers alike. First of all, we all dream, we all have dreams, and all of the things like that. We have dreams of doing this and being this and these wonderful, whatever the case may be. But any lover of fiction that is fantasy or fantasy movies, the Game of Thrones, Spider-Man, I don't know, Hercules, whatever the case, you will love this. This book was phenomenal, and it is for the second time around. I don't know, I was in a mood to read something, and I've been thinking about all the books that I've read over the years, and I'm kind of in the mood to do rereading, but I think I'm going to save all of my rereading for the fall. But I was definitely in the mood to read this, so that's why I was like, let me see if my library has this on audio. I would love to reread this on audio, and it's not disappointing. The audiobook is fantastic, but this book is amazing. Like, Laszlo Strange is probably another one of my favorite characters that I've ever read about, and even all the other aspects. So, and anyway, let me stop, because with this, you can't say too much about it, because if you start speaking too much, then you'll really spoil it. It's not literary fiction, it's fantasy. So I will say Lonnie Taylor does a really good job of world building. World building is essential when you are reading a fantasy. If the world is not built properly, if you have any instance where you are confused, I think the entire story is just gonna fall flat for you. Not this. I loved this book. I'm telling you, because I'm rereading it again. It's a great book. If you want to enter into fantasy, if you want to read something outside of all the fantasy everybody else is reading, because this took over years ago. I want to say, when did this come out? It was years ago. Everybody loved this book. So this came out in 2018. Everybody was reading it 2019, 2020, everybody was reading it. And so, like, it took me a couple of years to get on the bandwagon, but it was so good. So yeah, I recommend this. It's great for the summertime. You'll enjoy it. Let me know how you feel about it. All right. Let me do a quote from the book. All right, this part I'm reading to you guys is like the end of part 1, or close to the end of part 1, where Laszlo finally steps out on the ledge and tells the guy, the God Slayer, hey, Earl Fane, he tells Earl Fane, hey, I deserve to come, okay? And so he steps out and he says, he basically tells Earl Fane, hey, I'm good at telling stories. Like, all these other people that Earl Fane has picked to come with them on their expedition to find the unseen or the lost city, they all had something to offer. So Laszlo is like, I can tell stories. And so after he tells Earl Fane, I'm a wonderful, amazing, gifted storyteller, Earl Fane is like, it's been a long time since I heard a story. And he's like, get your things. And so this is what Laszlo says after he's like, get your things, gather your things, and meet us here. He says, I have nothing to gather. I have nothing to gather, he breathed. It was true, but even if he'd had a palace full of possessions, he couldn't have gone to fetch none of them for fear returning to find the treasure cane gone, his chance and his dream and his life with them. Well then, up with you, said Earl Fane, and a spectral was led forward. And that's him taking his chance. He took a chance. So yeah, girl, Strange the Dreamer, 10 out of 10, 5-star. Anyway, so we have a fantasy. I've given you fantasy. I've given you literary fiction. I've given you romance. Now we have some nonfiction. We have Slouching Toward Bethlehem by Miss Joan Didion, the amazing. And this is also, it's giving summer vibes altogether, because this is just about Joan Didion's California. It's just writings on California. Aside from 1 or 2 essays, I think, everything is writings on California. From, I don't know, her writing articles. These are essays from articles that she has had published, and they're also personal essays. So you have 2 parts. The first part, they came from newspaper articles and magazine articles, and the second part of Slouching Toward Bethlehem are her personal essays and musings on California. So yeah, this is great. It's wonderful writing for anybody. Honestly, if this is your intro to Joan Didion, I think Slouching Towards Bethlehem would be a great place to start. I think this is her second volume of anything that she's ever published throughout her whole literary canon. And I just love it so much. It's summer vibes all together. It's very good writing. It's very intriguing. Just the way that Joan Didion just muses on things, and like even her investigative journalism, all of it is just so well done. I don't know. There's just something so not spoken things. Sometimes you don't have anything to say about someone. They're just amazing in their own right. I think that about Joan Didion. I think that she was just a great sign of the times. She was a great recorder of the times. She just is one of the greats. And so this is just something good to like sink your teeth in and out of during the summer, as these are essays. You can read 1 or 2 per day and then revisit them throughout the entire summer if that's something that you like to do. But I just really enjoyed it. And there's a piece that I have here. So of course, this book on self-respect is my favorite essay out of this entire collection, but I did enjoy the first essay, which is Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream. So I do have this little piece that I wanted to read for you guys. All right, here it says, this is the California where it is possible to live and die without ever eating an artichoke, without ever meeting a Catholic or a Jew. This is the California where it is easy to dial a devotion, but hard to buy a book. This is the country in which a belief in the literal interpretation of Genesis has slipped imperceptibly into a belief in the literal interpretation of double indemnity. The country of the teased hair and the capris and the girls for whom all life's promises comes down to a waltz-length white wedding dress, and a birth of a Kimberly or a Sherry or a Debbie, and a Tijuana divorce, and a return to hairdresser school. We were just crazy kids, they say without regret, and look to the future. The future always looks good in the golden land because no one remembers the past. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Right? So yeah, these are just a few. I have so many more, but these are a few books that I have not talked about on my channel for a long time that I recommend that you guys read for the summer. So yeah, those are my recommendations for this summer. If you got some recommendations you want to add to the list, we can have a reoccurring list in the comment section. If you read any of these, you can share what you think about them. Also, they kind of give somebody else a sense of how they might feel about these books, especially for people who don't look on Storygraph or who don't look on Goodreads often. You know, this is a reference. This is a reference point for you for this summer and beyond. So yeah, those are all the books that I have to suggest to you guys today for summer. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next upload. Enjoy your summer. Deuces.